Welcome to another episode of a Student's Declassified Market Supporting Guide, the professional segment of the Intentional Intern Podcast. As always, I'm happy you guys are here. The industry we'll discuss today is very near and dear to my heart and my work. Human resources, also known as HR. To give a bit of background for those who don't know, human resources is a department that manages an organization's employees, defined by ADP. I found some other definitions, but they watered down the true value of HR professionals to just recruiting, which is a goal that I want to change throughout my career anyway. ADP's version gives us room to explore all of the various facets of HR and how they interconnect through employees and each other to achieve overall business goals. To sum it up, HR is the heart of a company that pumps the blood and resources to the rest of the organization. For me, HR is the industry where I can support, advocate, and connect with every part of the business to help them thrive, which makes it a special department to work in. What's even more special beyond that is my interviewee, Yasmin Foster. She started her career at Target in human resource management, but now heads HR in the U.S. as a senior people operations manager at a financial services organization in New York City. She also holds a Master of Science in Human Resource Development from Villanova University and is a SHRM Certified Professional. Yasmin brings a combination of academic knowledge and 9+ years of practical expertise to her roles. Throughout the episode, we talk about Yasmin's leadership philosophy, the value of mentorship, holistically approaching work and personal life, plus so much more. Yasmin is an aficionado of HR who uniquely communicates with confidence and warmth. Her nuggets of knowledge and ability to convey her passion for what she loves curates impactful messages that everyone can take away from this episode, whether it's HR related or not. Yasmin's LinkedIn will be down in the show notes for everyone who wants to connect. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Yasmin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Amaya?
I'm good. It's Saturday, so I can't complain.
I know. I'm literally doing this from my couch, so I feel very relaxed right now.
That's cool. So I wanted to start by just saying thank you so much for coming on the podcast and just willing to talk about like your journey and any of the topics that we're going to cover today and just having this organic conversation.
Okay, awesome. I'm fully letting you lead the way here.
Thank you for your trust in me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime.
So before we get started, I would love if you could introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you so we can get the ball rolling.
Yes. So my name is Yasmin. I am an HR leader by profession. I came to fall into HR or begin my career in HR way back now, it feels like 9+ years ago. I started my career in Target, more so on the operational business side, but my role consisted of a lot of HR management responsibilities. And I ended up being really passionate and focused on training and development, performance management, creating a culture on my team where trust was built, and that passion was definitely recognized. And I also took on as many projects as I could to support our HR leader at the time. So I ended up moving into a role as a senior HR manager where I led a team, had an HR manager reporting into me and some associates. And that's what really spawned my career in HR. After leaving Target, I went into different specialist roles within human resources as an HR executive recruiter, talent acquisition, senior talent development. And for me, that really built my comprehensive skills in human resources. But I would say that what I bring to my work is a combination of that like practical experience plus my academic knowledge because I have a master's degree in human resources development and my SHRM certification. So I feel like all of those things are really important to be able to maintain a competitive edge and keep myself educated in this space because as you know, as an emerging HR professional, things can change very quickly. Businesses can change, the external environment can change. So in addition to being knowledgeable about all things HR, it's really important for me to understand the business that I'm a part of, because in order to be effective, that business acumen has to be there. Right now, currently, I'm a senior people operations manager, so essentially heading the HR function for the US at the organization that I work for now. And I was born and raised in New York City, still reside here. I love art, so I'm always happy to talk about that. And I have a beautiful little puppy called Romeo, and a great husband who is my best friend. So that is a little bit about myself.
Wow, I love that. You know what? I should have expected more, especially as a person who's worked in TA. You probably know how to do pitches very well to get.
You know what? You really do learn how to be a version of a salesperson, especially when I worked as an HR executive recruiter. That is really like a huge foundation of the role, and they teach you sales. They really do. Although you're trying to partner with businesses and find competitive talent in the industry to help support those businesses, you've got to express your value and why you're that person that can help do that for them. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I appreciate you saying that. That took a long time to cultivate, but it is an HR thing too. I think you got to do a lot of convincing, just in general. I feel like, don't you think?
I do. Now that you think about it, like I do. I do think I have to communicate or advocate for a lot more of
Mhm.
what I'm actually working with, because HR is such a critical function within the importance of an entire business. So
Mhm.
I do think in the scheme of things, like our employees are our clients, and we're
Yeah.
trying to convince them of why we should need this new policy or why we should need this new thing. So I
Mhm.
understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so you talked about your master's being in HR. What was
Mhm.
your undergrad in, if you don't mind?
Oh, yeah. My undergraduate degree was in corporate communications. I mean, it's interesting because it took a little bit of a journey to get there. Um, because I always knew this. I always knew that I wanted to be in business in some form or fashion. And in my head, I just thought very traditionally, like, oh, that's going to be finance, you know? So when I took that first finance class and realized I was not in love with it at all, I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And I will tell you, in terms of like my nature, I'm a very, very curious person, and I've always had various interests. So when I decided that I was not going to get a bachelor's in business administration, I started exploring various different majors. Do you want to hear all of them?
Yes, please.
Okay. And this is not in the order, this is just what I did. So at one point, it was psychology, it was journalism, it was philosophy when I was considering going to law school. And then a friend of mine told me about this public relations class. Um, and I had space for an elective. So I was like, this, I've always found that interesting. Let me see how it goes. I absolutely fell in love with it. I was like, what major is this course connected to? That's what I need to be doing. But the major was very, very comprehensive. So it's a business communications major, which is with a specialization in corporate communications. And especially what it focuses on is communications, but specifically like in business and in various other fields. It could be specific to like investor relations, corporate advertising, employee communications, and I absolutely loved it. It kind of involved all of the things that I cared about and was interested in this like one thing. And I've always been able to utilize it in every single role that I've been in. And it really makes me think about the impact of change in an organization. So, for example, with HR, if you're rolling out a new policy, the way that I think about it, there should be a whole communication plan that comes out with this policy, because it's not so much the change that happens, it's delivering it appropriately so that it could be received. And that's really how I think about most things when I'm communicating. Like, who's my audience? Who am I impacting? How can I tailor this appropriately? So I would say that communication very heavily feeds into all the things that I do. And I think that that's been one of the things that's been able to set me apart is having that foundational skill.
Yeah. And you talked about, in speaking of foundational skills, of just how HR is something that's ever changing. And so,
Yeah.
in HR being ever changing, of course, you want to have a solid foundation of who you are. But I wanted to know a little bit more of within your span of time in HR, what do you think has changed the most?
Hmm. In HR, what has changed the most? Would say that there's two things that have come to mind. Technology is one. Not to say that we didn't leverage it before, because we have always needed ATS systems, HRIS systems, but I think they've definitely become more robust. And now you can even think about just today, the use of AI and how that feeds into everything. If on a personal level, if you think about talent acquisition and recruiting, how that affects a candidate's process as well. So you can see how it's definitely reshaped HR and that interaction between either candidate and employee and the organization. And I think that with any tools, they're very powerful and very useful because they can create operational efficiencies. It can take the administrative and clerical out of HR that was so heavily existed before. And you obviously need that organization that still exists, but a lot of that could be done more electronically and more digitally, and not all of these paper folders and filing cabinets, which you probably won't have to ever experience in your HR career, but I have. And you can move away from those things, create operational efficiency so that you have the ability to focus on more strategic initiatives in the business. So I think there's definitely a strong use for that. But then there's instances where there could be overuse and that disconnection can be created. So you have to be careful of the balance between leveraging technology in a way that's going to benefit you and those that are interacting with it without losing the people interaction part. I would also say HR being looked at as a business person and having a seat at the table. Previously, they weren't included in those types of conversations as much, or maybe they would be told, via third party. But the way that I view HR is a business person who focuses on the human capital aspect of the organization, but also operates as a partner to the business simultaneously. So there is that balance that you have to strike between the two. But I think that is how HR is viewed within organizations has changed in that regard as well. And I think it's great because we have a lot to add to the organization, and everything that we do really should align with the organizational objectives as well. And challenging if need be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say those things.
No, yeah, I totally can agree with that. And me being in HR maybe about 3-ish years, so I really have not had to deal with paper files. Thank you so much. I'm learning a lot from just talking about not even just the technology, but also in the business side piece, and just that striking a balance between business, but also betterment. And how can we do that within a certain realm for employees, but also for the entire organization? Because those can be very tricky, of course, when employees and organizations may not always align.
Mhm.
So that's something usually heavily relied upon by the HR team to help resolve or
Mhm.
dissolve in any case, just to create the optimal environment where everybody can thrive and align. So,
Mhm.
and speaking on that, I think that's a topic that definitely occurs during personal and professional development as well. And so, within your HR career and your time, have there been any skills that you've learned professionally that have actually assisted you in personal development as well as you've been growing?
Ooh. Oh, yeah. I think that you have to be very tactical in and intentional about how you communicate to people, because your words do matter in that role very, very heavily. You are interacting with people for so many different reasons related to their career, related to their personal lives. And you have to have a level of being equipped with information that can help that person, but also being able to listen and connect, just literally connect on a human level. Things that make a difference is just being able to communicate with a level of confidence and warmth, but also sometimes a level of very strong assurance. So I would say, in terms of helping me in my personal life, oh, absolutely. Like the way that I have conversations with people in my personal life and the way that I solve problems, I feel like has been strongly cultivated by my experience as a professional. Like if someone meets me and they interact with me for long periods of time, like they're not shocked that I'm in HR. I would definitely say that for sure. But I would say the communication piece and being able to be a strong observer. I think some of the strongest HR professionals aren't the ones that lead with resolution. It's the ones that lead with observation, being able to look at the situation with a deep lens and also a broad scope. And over time, creating an effective solution that is going to be useful for the short and long term and can get to a place that most positively impacts all individuals involved. At least that's how I think about it, because it's not one person typically that you're impacting when you're trying to make change, even if it feels like that at the surface. So yeah, I would say communication and relationship building.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about, the strongest HR professionals don't just lead with resolution, because that's
Mhm.
huge, especially in the climate of today of just
Mhm.
that isn't enough. And I
Mhm.
want to know, with you being in this new role of being the head of HR for the organization that you work with, what is your leadership philosophy? How have you cultivated that within just your time as not just an HR head here, but just overall in any leadership roles that you've held? What is your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, what is my leadership philosophy? I would definitely say it is there's two aspects here in terms of what I'm thinking in terms of leadership. It's partnering with individuals in the business and then also my team. So I think I'm going to look at it in those buckets. If I'm thinking about leaders in the business, my peers and up, it starts with building relationships. There's no convincing of anything without that relationship, without that buy-in. Understanding the individuals, the key individuals within your organization, that takes time. In this new role, it's only been a couple of months, and that's something that I'm still digging into. Understanding what these people believe in, what's important to them, how do they make decisions, how are they convinced of anything, so that comes with creating space for those conversations. It could feel difficult to do that when you are operating a business and things are moving so quickly, but time for that is really, really important. And then over time, when you're trying to create initiatives and move things along, you need other people's support to help you drive that, because whatever you're attempting to do within HR, usually when it comes to major change, is going to need the support of others. So if you can't get the support and buy-in of others, you're probably not going to be successful. You're not going to be successful. I'll say that. When it comes to so being a partner, being a business partner, having that business acumen, I would say that that's my philosophy as a leader when it comes to the business side. You've got to understand the inner workings of your organization in terms of the true business of it and the inner workings of the people and all of those dynamics. In terms of leader with my team, talent development, I'll scream it to the top of my lungs. I want anyone who works with me, and even though they're my direct reports, I think of it as a partnership. I want them to feel empowered to do their roles successfully and continue to be challenged. So I firmly believe in check-ins, not for my sake, but for both of our sake in terms of getting aligned on things, but it's also for them to source anything that they may need from me, to understand what their goals and aspirations are and how we can work together to have them continue be on the road of development. Maybe that means doing challenging projects within their role. Maybe that means looking towards another opportunity within the company. But that is really important to me. I think sometimes as leaders, the human management part, the performance management part could get lost, and you focus on objectives and tasks and really becomes more of a project management than like a people leader. But if you are a leader of people, the people have to be focused on as a component of your role.
I never even thought about it that way, of just even the duality of a leadership philosophy, and that those can be different because you are leading completely different ways.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to kind of think about how multifaceted leaders have to be, not just beyond the people part, but being the partner in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And you seem like you are very well-rounded, but also very strong in like your values and your foundations. And I want to ask, where did that come from? Did that come from a person? Did that come from a certain role that you were really aligned with that taught you a lot? Did you have a mentor? What was the process like for you to kind of find yourself to where you are now?
Wow. I feel like that question goes back so far. Now, I'll say there's so many people involved in that process. I would say that it probably starts with my parents. I've just always, it's been instilled in me that there's a strong power within me and I can do whatever I set my mind to. And I do think that that helps having that confidence built in very early. And then from a very young age, I've done things that I would consider challenging. So, my first love before HR is dance. I was a professional dancer. I started dancing officially when I was like 2 to 3. I've been a part of some very prestigious ballet companies, Dance Theater of Harlem in New York. I've taken summer intensives at Alvinelli, Ballet Hispanico, and that was like a deep, deep love for me. And in dance, you literally fall. As you're learning, you fall on your butt, on your body, on your face, maybe on your elbows, and you have to get back up. You have to get back up to cultivate those skills. And I truly, truly believe that that is what instilled that like level of resilience and fortitude that I have when it comes to things. And I did not realize this until I was older. Actually, when I was writing my graduate school entry letter, and I had to do a lot of reflecting about who I am and actually what brought me to this place and the mindset that I have. And it started there. And I've always, always, always been a person that just was fascinated by personal development. I think that's that psychology in me that I've always been gravitated towards. So personal development, professional development is something that I've always been passionate about for myself, and I think that's why it's so important to me as a leader. So every book that I have is, not every book, but most of the books that I have are about professional development. I love Brene Brown. I love Adam Grant. I mean, anything professional development that's been popular at some point, I've probably looked at it. I would say that I also surround myself with people that are inspiring to me. All of my friends and the people that I'm close with are magnificent people through and through, not just career wise, but like deep down to their core are just great people. I mean, I have, all your friends don't have to be successful, and success looks different for different people depending on what their goals are. But I can honestly say I can look at each of my friends and say, wow, you're doing some amazing things in life, and we all feel the same way about each other. So I think when you surround yourself with people that are just like motivated, driven professionals, that definitely helps reinforce your drive. And as I've gotten older, there are things that are really important to me in terms of continuing these efforts that I have for myself. And it is by merely existing, I know that I am living something aspirational for someone else. Just by me being a woman, me being a woman of color, and continuing to strive for continued success, I just hope that my mere existence shows someone else that their goals are possible. And I'm not even truly fully where I want to be yet. But even where I've gotten to, I feel like is a place where I I hope that people, strive for and beyond. If HR is their road or whatever, or if it's just seeing a woman that is in a field where they're being successful in their own right, whether it's getting a master's degree, all of those things. I did all of that for myself. But I think even for you, Amaya, you're not where you want to be in your career necessarily, but I feel like what you're doing is aspirational. And I feel like what you're doing, someone is going to look to you and be like, wow, that is an amazing person. She's done this, she's done that. I want to be like that person. So your mere existence is an example of what someone may strive for. And I think that continues to enhance my drive. Sorry, that was a bit of a long-winded answer, but
It was a neat answer though, because I definitely feel the same way in alignment of my goal is no matter what I'm doing, as long as there's someone behind me that
Mhm,
believes that they can do what I'm doing,
mhm.
I'm winning. Like that's what
Yeah, 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 yeah. So true, so true. And you never know who, right?
Mhm,
Um, and that doesn't mean that you can't learn from those individuals as well. I don't even think we've recognized this on this podcast, but like you and I have like a mentor-mentee relationship, right? Like that's how we came to know each other through the SHRM mentorship program. But it's not one that's, oh, I am the being of all-knowing HR, right? And then there's no, like we literally have exchanges where we learn from one another. And I think that for people to grow in their careers, no matter what level they're at, I think that's also something that has to be recognized. That just because you may be years ahead of someone in their experience, that doesn't mean that you know everything. Be willing to be open and listen to new perspectives and ideas. And I believe that curiosity that I continue to maintain is something that also just feeds my drive. I can easily go down like an amazing rabbit hole of things, and all types of ideas blossom from there. And again, having conversations with people at all levels, um, I definitely learned so much. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of networking.
mhm,
It's something that I do often, not just for a new job, but just continued, because you may hear one thing in a 45-minute dialogue that creates a complete shift in you or how you want to approach something. And those things leave lasting impressions. And as you have more and more and more of those, you start developing into this like person that you want to be, or better than what you thought you could be over time.
mhm. And that's very true. Like things I can think of things that stick out to me that I'm just like, "Oh, I'm never gonna forget those things." Just because they're so much like as soon as I heard it the first time, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
someone did something with this here. And like
Yeah.
it just carries on into everything, and you just end up thinking about it naturally, like as you continue to grow. And
Yeah.
like you were saying, of just the exchange that we have is a very valuable, like mentor mentee relationship. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was on LinkedIn and I was looking at one of another Gen Z person who
Mhm.
posted something on LinkedIn. And they were like, I feel like everybody wants to do things, for the next future of work in Gen Z, but nobody's asking Gen Z at all.
Mm.
And I was like, you're
Wow.
right. No one is asking us. And I was talking about just how so much of what people are looking for within the next future of work would be so much easier if they just ask,
Right.
or if they just listen, even. So if you're
Yeah.
in the position to ask, the position to listen as well, where you have a panel done or you have a study done, just like how, they
Right.
have studies run within companies. Do a workforce study of Gen Z within your population or your target audience of Gen Zers that you're trying to attract. Like if you're a tech company looking for the next top talent in Gen Z, how will you calculate that? How will you curate that? Because I can say from my perspective of Gen Z is different. I feel like everybody knows that, of just being different, but we are very different in terms of how we operate, but also how we commit to things, what's important to us, and I think in more casual terms, what we won't let slide either. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting in how we approach our goals and our future things, but also how we unify as a collective when it's like,
Mhm.
I want this for all of us. I don't want
Right.
this just for me. And so I've been
Right.
seeing that shift within
Mhm.
generationally within the future of work too. And so I think having just a mentor who is so open and who is so authentic like you and very resourceful to want to have that just collaborative exchange of ideas is
Mhm.
very, very helpful, not just in for guidance, but also for, the people who are sourcing and wanting to attract and retain and engage the talent that is now, or that is going
Yeah.
to be now. And speaking on that mentorship piece, how long have you been doing like SHRM mentorship, and what inspired you to kind of get involved with that?
It's only been since late last year. I believe it's been since October of 2023. So, how did I come across this? I've always been a proponent of giving back in some regard. And some people do that differently. I like to do that with time, giving of my time, whether it's going to paint the inside of a school or reading to kids at a library. I think one of the ways that I gained this passion of giving back was one through my mom, but she would pretty much do that a little bit differently though. She likes to give to organizations, right? But when I started working at Target, there's really big on corporate social responsibility, and every location has a very robust HR team. And one of the initiatives that you have to drive is volunteerism.
Mm,
And that was something that was really important in my role. So I started, building, ways that people can volunteer and started having discussions about it. If people were volunteering on their own, please share that with us, so people could be a part of other individuals' causes. And
mhm,
I felt like that definitely helped build a level of camaraderie. And that's always stuck with me since then. And I was looking for new ways to volunteer because over the last couple of years, I had been doing crisis text line and being a crisis counselor. I felt like, though, in 2020, that became extremely hard even for me to do because you just hear so many intense things and you have to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically in order to do something like that consistently.
mhm.
So I have always been like very active in SHRM. And now that I did not have grad school to take up my time, I was already kind of looking for ways to give back and nothing quite connected with me. And I ended up seeing this advertisement through my SHRM membership account to be a volunteer or be a mentee, and not a volunteer, a mentor or a mentee. And I was like, this is it. This is it. So I signed up to be a mentor. So this like mini application process. I'm curious if it's the same for you, but you sign up for this mini application process and they tell you within a couple weeks time, if you're going to be a mentor or not. So you get matched with someone, and I don't know how they do it, but they do an amazing job of matching. And I had one person prior to you, and that was great. But I felt like however they matched us was just magic, to be honest. And there's just so many things that we're so similar in, right? Just our personality types, like how passionate we are about HR, and our philosophy, I think, is very similar. You have like such unique approaches and visions about things. So I love to talk to you about your ideas. I'm really just an anchor. You have a lot of the tools and the things that you need to be successful. I'm really just an anchor, providing advice, providing guidance, in some instances, a level of expertise in specific areas. But mentorship, you definitely have to be willing to give of yourself and give of your time, and be okay with also saying, I'm not sure, but here's how I can help get you there. And I'm going to help like dive in to help you figure this out. But our relationship has become super organic because, as you know, there's some structure to this process where it's like we have our monthly meetings with all the volunteers and all the mentors and mentees. And then there's individual meetings you're supposed to have like once a month with your mentor and mentee. But ours is like every week or like random texts throughout the week. So I'm like, I think I told you after our first 2 weeks, listen, like, I know that I'm going to have like another mentee soon, but like, please don't hesitate to reach out. So I felt like we've developed this really organic connection for our love of HR and just support for one another. So I'm excited to continue like cultivating that with you and just being there for whatever you need. Like I wished I would have had that, and I had that in different ways. Like I had some great mentors at organizations that I worked in, but there's something very different about having a mentor outside of the organization that you exist in. There's just a level of transparency, I feel like, that looks very different. Because in the back of your mind, if you have a mentor that works at your company, at least for me, there's ways in which I felt like I could be vulnerable and open, but I got to be smart too. There's a chance that they may share the information with someone, and that never happened, luckily, but I feel like your walls are completely like down if it's someone that doesn't exist inside the environment of your company. So I think mentors within your organization are great, and also having advocates within your organization, but also having a mentor that you can speak to freely about the ups and downs that you're experiencing in your career is very, very valuable. And it's something that I am cultivating now more so, and have been in the last few years. I have some dynamic individuals that are in my life as great HR professionals that are leaders in this space at the top of where you can go, like chief HR leaders that I call on for advice sometimes, and I know that they have people too. So utilize the resources that are out there. And I know it could be difficult for some to network and put yourself out there, but there's really no way to cultivate those relationships without doing that. And you might meet one person who connects you to like 5 people, or one person who connects you to one person, and that connects you to another person and another person. That has happened to me even recently. And when I tell you, I know these individuals will be in my life continuously as anchors for me, and you need that. like a therapist needs a therapist. You know, I feel like it's the same for HR professionals.
Firm believer in that. If everybody needs somebody.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
love that you talked about the value of just mentorship beyond, not even just like within hours, but beyond that, of just for everybody, and how important it is to have a mentor or to just have a relationship that acts kind of even informally as a mentorship, where you have someone that you can rely on, collaborate with, challenge, support, and that being a transformational relationship and not something that's just transactional. It's not like
Yeah.
a one type thing. It's like, you can reach out to me anytime. And like
Mhm.
you were saying, I love doing stuff that I wish I had done for myself. So
Mhm.
I really value whenever I get to connect with people like yourself who also feel the same way, where that's the whole inspiration behind having the podcast. That's the whole inspiration behind getting to be a mentor for someone. That's even the whole inspiration behind even volunteering. And so getting to hear you talk about like your love for volunteerism, I'm the same way. I
Mhm.
love to volunteer with Hands-On Atlanta whenever I can and get to work with kids or get to work with food or just be able
Right.
to help provide an impact somewhere. And give my time, because time is definitely money, just in different ways,
Yes.
different
Yeah.
forms of money. So, like, if my career is my USD, my personal time
Ooh.
that I'm giving is like my yen or my euro. It's a different form of currency. They're all valuable.
Wow.
It's just where I'm putting it.
Oh my gosh. That gave me chills, literally up my spine. If my career is my USD, ooh, that is powerful. That is powerful. It's so true. I say that too, in like slightly differently, but it relates. I also think it's your intellectual property,
Hmm.
the knowledge that you hold in your
Valuable.
field and in your expertise is super, super, super valuable
Hmm.
to other people in terms of what you can offer, and monetarily, it means something. That's why there's salaries that exist, right? That could be more equitable, but meaning like you can attach a dollar to that and the value of that. And then you mentioned transformational relationships. That is so important. And there's something that I want to emphasize a little bit about, like volunteerism, whether it's mentor mentee relationships, because it relates, I think, to who we are holistically. We put a lot of value in our careers. And if you're passionate about what you do, it's very easy to do that. But you are, and everyone is more than that too. And I think sometimes there's too much emphasis and time placed on that and not enough on who you are as an individual outside of that, because nothing is guaranteed. So, for example, you can be the best, most amazing employee and contributor to your organization, but you can have a layoff tomorrow and you be a part of it, right? That doesn't mean that you're not good. That doesn't mean that you don't bring value to the organization. It's an unfortunate business decision that's probably going to impact a lot of people. But are you going to completely lose yourself when you lose that job? You have got to have more than that as a part of your foundation, and whatever that means to you, but know who you are outside of your career so that if any of that changes, you know that you are always going to be okay because you have so many other things in your life that are valuable, and your intellectual property, which is all the knowledge and the skills and abilities that you hold that you can offer to someone else. Or maybe that means your next step is entrepreneurship. But don't lose yourself in your job. I don't care what type of company you work for, if it's the most successful company on the planet, your job and the company that you work for should not be your identity. It
Mm.
should not. And things like volunteerism can help keep you grounded. It can help you do something that's outside of you specifically because you're giving back to someone else,
Hmm.
and have other things that you enjoy doing outside of your work, and give yourself time back from your work.
Yeah.
Understandably, that it gets busy and it gets crazy, but you've got to cultivate and continue to maintain a holistic version of yourself so that you can continue to be successful in and out of work.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer of holistic ideology and being
Mm-hmm.
able to have design thinking, but also approaching things from a holistic value. Because in understanding everything that we just talked about, you also have to understand yourself first to even access some parts of what you're dealing with within your life that
Yep.
will also drive you forward. And I actually have two notes or two questions that came to mind when you were talking. And
Yeah.
the first one that I would love to ask you is kind of when we were talking about laying that foundation of the identity piece wherever
Mm-hmm.
you're going, there are, I will say, limited amount of HR students that I've ran into just because they don't know like other HR students or how to become
Mm-hmm.
a professional. And do you have any advice or any resources that you think are valuable for those who are just starting out in HR or even those just thinking about going into HR?
Yes. One thing, the SHRM is an amazing organization. And get involved in your SHRM chapter. I mean, there's so many. There's local ones that are specific to your city. There's ones that are extensions of organizations, such as your school. That is an amazing, amazing place to start. I mean, that is how I came to network with some amazing individuals who then shared other great networking events with me and other great organizations with me. I would also, if you're like new in your career, cultivate really strong relationships with your professors. There or professors that are specific in HR. They have a wealth of knowledge and not only have the academia, behind them, but probably a well-rounded career and history in HR. I developed some great relationships with my professors that I still continue to keep with me today, and I'll call them up and ask them for advice too, or they know of opportunities that are available in the space of HR or may connect me to other individuals. So if you're really new in your career, be involved in SHRM chapters, local, and all of the niche versions of them. And then your professors also, I think, would be really, really great resources of pointing you in the right direction of other professionals and other groups that may be local to you and other opportunities as well. And just seeking their advice about how they've become successful in their career. But really the key here in all of this is network. Like, conversations feel to some people like they can be a time suck, but they're valuable. You're exchanging knowledge and information, and that knowledge and information is going to help you get to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And LinkedIn, reach out to people. Reach out to people who are doing what you want to do and see if they have an opportunity to talk. People love to help, usually, is what I find, and use the fact that you are new to that space as you're in, letting them know that you're an emerging HR professional and interested in continued success in your career and evolving as an individual within HR. Can they offer some time to talk about their experience and how they've gotten to where they are today? And you're not going to get responses from everyone, but even that one response can open up the door to a lot.
Mm-hmm. Firm believer in that for
Yeah.
sure. And so I want to take the final topic that I had that you actually brought up, and I want to steer a little bit from professionalism that we talked about,
Mm.
as much as professionalism is so great and our professions are amazing and they allow us to be sustainable. Um,
Yeah.
what are the things that ground you outside of that, where we were talking about, having that personal identity, but also things that bring you back to who you are, after
Mm.
you clock out. So going back to, you said you enjoy art and things like that. What are some things that bring you joy and help you recharge or almost like fill up your bank so you can continue to reinvest your time into the things that you are doing out or inside?
That is awesome. Yes, I love art. So I'll start there. I live in a city, New York City, where, oh my gosh, we have the most amazing access to art and culture. So I have some of the most world-renowned museums near me, like the Met, the MoMA, which are my faves. I'm actually going to the Met tonight. So I'm very excited about that. I can go to a museum and walk around all day by myself and just soak it all in. There's just something magical and grounding to see what a person has developed. You know, art is just powerful and it just speaks to my soul in a way that I probably can't fully describe. But I would say that that's one thing. I love to journal. I love to read. It's very cathartic journaling. I need the paper and pen. I need to write it down in a traditional little like journal notebook. It just helps me release things. It helps me to also capture something in time that I could at some point look back on and be like, wow, I have truly evolved from that moment. It's difficult to see your evolution just through living your life. And I believe journaling is a really beautiful way to capture that because we're living our day to day lives and we move on to the next. And you don't necessarily think about all the growth that you've had over the years and the months. And I think that those reflective moments are really helpful in just showcasing to us like that we do have the power to change and grow. And then other fun things, I just love having a laugh with my friends, going out to dinner, trying a new meal, or going to a place that I really like. You know, I just love a good belly laugh. I really do with my friends. My husband is also just an amazing grounding force for me. We were best friends before we even started dating. So we have that like very playful, fun nature to a relationship. And he could pretty much always make me laugh, even if I'm like annoyed with him. I end up laughing and like I just can't stay mad. And it's always silly things, but still. And then my dog, I have this like amazing poodle that I'm obsessed with. His name is Romeo, and he's a baby. He just turned, how old is he now? He's almost a year old. But he's just a gem. He's so cuddly and curly, and those are just things on a regular basis that just bring me joy. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great note to kind of leave off of just instilling joy and having joy in whatever you do, whether that's personal or that's professional. Enjoy what you do, but also have things that give you joy in order for
Yep.
you to continue doing what you enjoy. And just ultimately just doing what you land, like what you love
Mm-hmm.
and landing on it and just having that cyclical cycle, but having that joy. So you're never just burnt out and you're just investing in yourself through your relationships, through your time, through your volunteerism, and through your work, and just how important that is, not just as an HR professional, but just literally as a people person. So you don't have to be a people professional to be a people person.
That is so true. You know, we've all got to remember at the end of the day, we all just want connection, you know?
Mhm.
Want connection, and most of us want peace. So find a little bit of peace in your day regardless of like how crazy it is. And I think that speaks back to the point you're making about the joy. But
Yeah.
I think that comes with inner peace. And that takes a
Mhm.
long time to cultivate, and sometimes it could be easier said than done, but I think having that practice on a day-to-day basis helps when things are difficult. So
Yeah.
yeah, really well said.
Yeah. And so I just want to thank you so much for just coming on to the podcast today again and just sharing all of your valuable experiences, all of your valuable wisdom and knowledge, but also just letting us have an opportunity to hear from you, especially in HR, what that really means and how that's changed and what we can look to forward just within ourselves and how we can help push ourselves forward to do what we love.
Well, thank you for having me. This was wonderful. This was my first podcast, and I'm happy to do this again with you if you ever want me back. So it was a joy.
Thank you.
for tuning in to another episode, but a new segment of the Intentional Intern Podcast. Tune in next time for another episode of a Students Declassified Market Supporting Guide. Let us know what you think about this new segment, as well as what or who you would want to hear from next. Have a good one.